Hi, this is John Hilbrands, and today we're going to set up our receiver for our 5.1 system to be more automated. So we're not going to go through 5 buttons on our remote and a big secret method of getting it to turn to our 5.1 system. And we're also going to make it so that we can choose to have our TV speakers or our surround sound system without having any of those button pushing. So we're going to accomplish 2 things. We're going to simplify it, and we're going to allow people to choose one or the other. And so how do we do that? Well, we now have what's called CEC, and we've had it for quite a while, maybe 12 years or so. But it'll actually sense when this unit has power, and it'll turn it on. But we can simply interrupt that power with a button. Simple, one of those little power switches here. This is what it is, by the way, just a tabletop power button. But watch what happens when I allow the unit to get power. Notice it just went out of standby. Look at the TV, and we see that word receiver. It just recognized that it's there, and now it's connected through the EARC. So now we're getting 5.1. Before that button was engaged, we were getting TV speakers. So that's all that's necessary to switch from TV to 5.1, getting our surround sound. I have the nice speakers up there, and they were rather expensive. I should stand up. That's quite an arc there. They were rather expensive to get back when I bought them, but they're getting older, but they're really good surround sound by Pioneers. And I have the back ones as well. And I have all the wiring in the wall and everything else. So with the woofer back there behind that sofa arc. So would I switch to getting a sound bar? No, I'm not going to do that. I mean, this particular unit is an Onkyo. It's brand new, actually, and it was $250. So it's not very much money to switch to something that has more ability. Now, let's go through the programming in order to get this, or actually I should say the wiring. So our top setting of all of our new TVs, our HDMI 1, is going to be where the CEC and the EARC return channel is. And you can kind of see it right here on the side of my TV. And it comes out. I have 2 HDMIs. One is for my Blu-ray player. And I have it in one of these channels. So these channels are rather small, and I'll probably link to it. But you can see that I can fit 2 HDMIs and a power cord in there. And basically it's just a snap-on cap. It has a peel-off double-stick tape. It wasn't sticking very good, and so I used hot melt glue to hold it on. I realize that when I pull it off, it's going to rip up my drywall a bit, but I can plaster that again if I ever need to. Now, I have a cavity here, which allowed me to go around the corner to more that drop, but we could have also L'd it out this way and dropped it. I just chose to do that because it was neater. So once we get our HDMI cord down to our receiver, we're going to plug that into our receiver. Now, this says let's zoom in on that. Kind of dark back there, huh? There, you can kind of see it now. HDMI out, and it says EARC. And that EARC is the audio return channel. So that's how it's getting its sound. That's also going to be how it programs. In other words, when I go to program this, I'll see it on the TV through the same HDMI cord. So we just need that one HDMI cord for everything. All these other little things we're not going to use. Let's zoom out. We're not going to use any of our other HDMIs. We're not going to use any of our other connections for sound. We're just going to use our speakers and, of course, the digital for our woofer, or sub. So that's all we need. Now, many people are bothered. They'll see, oh, these are 8.1 and it'll do switching and all that. You know, I don't believe in using them. I believe that it's much easier to let the TV have the ability to switch inputs and not do anything with this remote. I just don't like to use the remote of my receiver. I don't want to push buttons on it. I don't want to deal with it. I do have one HDMI out of my Blu-ray player, and that goes up to my TV. So those are the only two HDMIs that are connected to the TV. And one of the reasons why I don't have the Blu-ray player connected into the surround sound processor is when I click this power on of my Blu-ray player, it'll automatically turn on the TV. It'll automatically switch the TV to the right input. So in other words, I just start using my Blu-ray player and everything is going. And if I had the power switch button, this here, engaged, it'll have power and it'll give me 5.1. So that's all we really need to do to connect it. Everything is going to be automated, and we're not going to do any button pushing. So whenever I read those weird reviews of people that say, you know, I want to get a simplified system because my wife never uses a surround sound, or we keep having to try and figure it out because we've forgotten how it gets our surround sound. We really don't need to do any of that with CEC, Consumer Electronics Control. And many people get that confused with Auto Return Channel, EARC, but they are both in the same HDMI wire. And we're also getting the HDMI out of our receiver to the TV through that same HDMI. And HDMI runs better sound profiles than through any of the other connections. So that's what we want to use. Your biggest concern is, of course, getting the wires are a little bit thicker. But, you know, if you use those channels, it gets hidden pretty well. Let's go into the settings of what we need to do. So settings on the TV and settings on the receiver, so we get that nice functionality. All right, so let's go into our settings of our TV here. And we're going to go to our inputs, and we see this word external device control, CEC, and we see this, we want it to have control through the HDMIs. Allow control of compatible HDMI connected devices, meaning the TV will control what's connected to it. Yes, please. So radio button on. Power on TV and sync, meaning if this turns on, should I power the TV on? Yes, do it. Anything to stop me from pushing a button, the better. Turn other device off in sync, meaning if the TV gets powered off, turn on the surround sound. Maybe we're on a system where we are just using 5.1 for a week or something like that. Just leave that power button engaged and it'll keep turning off our receiver forever even. But if you ever want to go back to TV speakers only, simply push that button and it won't sense that, and it'll just keep the TV speakers as the default. All right, so that's all of that. Now we're going to go to our sound, and we're going to do our audio here. So you can see that our audio output here is on auto, and it allows us to select internal speakers only, allows us to select any of these, but you also see that it says the highest priority audio device to output, meaning the best one. And surround sound is generally considered the best one. So it would do primary to the EARC if it senses it, if it senses a receiver. So auto will turn it to EARC if it senses it. If not, it'll use the internal speaker, okay? So that is all of the TV. Now let's go to our HDMI 1, and we'll go to our inputs, and we'll program our surround sound. Now notice the enhanced ARC or the ARC is usually on the HDMI 1. So when we click, so since it's connected to our receiver programs through that same HDMI cord. So when we do our setup or our programming of our receiver, turn on the programming, there we are. And we can see that They usually have an automated setup, and this Onkyo did a very good job of automatic setup. In fact, I didn't have to change anything. But let's go to our hardware here. And we see that we have, this is how it left it, by the way. So I didn't have to do anything. But you see HDMI CEC on, yes, please. And turn it to standby auto, yes, please. And all of that, and EARC supported, all of that was how it left it programmed, but that's what we wanted to say. Let's go back to something else that we can do to automate this. We can go to our power management. Oops. And we can have other things functioning, but I don't. Let's go back again. It's a little fussy, these remotes on the receiver. I don't think they really intend you to use them, but people often do for programming, and people often do to use, and that's why there's so much frustration. They're trying to use these receivers. I went to something else that I did. Notice I did a power on volume at 56. That's what I found the most comfortable listening. And that'll keep it from, when it's turning on, to be overly blasting, at least for my setup. But not so far that I have to raise the volume all the way up to 56 before I start hearing it. So just by going through all of my settings of my receiver, I found that and I decided to use that. And I put a maximum of 70. So if someone sits on the remote, it won't go up to bursting my eardrums. All right. Let's go back. And let's exit our settings and go back to our main screen here. So once again, we're going to, when I have power to this, we're going to get power through our 5.1. When I interrupt the power with one of these buttons, basically it's just something that the receiver is plugged into. So when this button is pushed, it stops the power. So when I push it, we no longer have power. Notice how the volume button popped up on the TV. It's just switched to TV volume. All right, so that is the most simplified method of getting our sound system to work without a lot of button pushing, getting our best sound profile over to our receiver. I purchased this, in case you're curious. This is an Onkyo receiver, TX SR3100. It was a $399 one that was on sale for $250 on Amazon. I think it was the lowest cost unit I could find, so that's why I bought it. My previous one that was 12 years old also had the ability to do CEC. I just replaced this one. The biggest reason was the sound profiles weren't quite what I wanted from my 5.1. This has some features that the other one didn't, and I thought it was a it was a low enough price. It was a low enough price to justify switching them out and getting that better sound profile. And I hope I showed you better how to set this up. Give me a thumbs up and a like, and even a subscription. I really would appreciate it. And good luck with your projects. Thank you. Bye-bye.